It's backwards on you guys.
Oh.
I guess from our videos we were doing yesterday. Good morning. We're here on April the 11th of 2018. I want to remind you all of our Dream Big retreat that's happening April the 27th, 28th, and 29th at Post Oak Lodge, Tulsa, Oklahoma. There's no fees for the retreat this year. It'll probably be the only year that will happen, but there's no fees whatsoever. Just come on out and join us and see what God's going to do. Dream big with us. So we had a big planning session yesterday, and it was awesome. But we're April the 11th, Joshua chapter 3 and 4 today. It's day 101, so you've crossed that 100 mark in your daily Bible reading. I mean, I kind of like looking at the pages. So this is what we have read. That's what we have left. It's the little things that encourages me anyway. I'm encouraging you to read all the way through the Bible from the front cover to the back cover. Makes such a difference, and especially when you continue to do it, you start seeing things differently. God's revelation just keeps coming and keeps coming, which is so powerful. We're starting the era of Joshua, who replaced Moses. Moses laid hands on him, gave him the Spirit of God to continue on. And in today's reading, it even spoke about that the people revered Joshua as much as they did Moses. And I think that's powerful. Moses was with them for 40 years just in the wilderness on their way to the promised land. And here Joshua's just taken over, and they already respect him and honor him and listen to him. And, everybody's in a leadership position. Every single one of you are in a leadership position. You can't not be a leader and be alive and breathe. You have somebody that's watching you. It may be the clerk at the grocery store that you go to. It could be the tech across the counter at the pharmacy where you pick up your prescriptions. It may be, a coworker that you just think you get up and go to work every day and come home and you don't mess with people. And but somebody is watching you all the time. You'll be surprised at how many of the little kids in your family or the little kids in your neighborhood or the little kids at the school where you take your child to school, you'll be surprised how many of them are looking up to you and they watch you and you've caught somebody's eye. But every single one of us, if you're breathing, you are a leader. And you're setting an example. And we read these stories in the Bible and we learn the best leadership principles that there are anywhere. We learn what to do. We learn what not to do. It's a great book for us. And today Joshua goes down in history as one of the greatest leaders that there ever was. And yet Moses is probably, if not the most prominent figure in the Old Testament, very, very close to that. So I just want to encourage you. And then, today great things happened in the reading today. He crosses them over the Jordan. And once again, to think about yourself as a leader and to think that your words carry so much weight that you could instruct a band of people to carry what they have in their arms and to put their feet in a river and trust that they're going to be able to cross that river when the water's still in it. Wow. They had to put their feet in the water first before it dried up and before the wall of water formed. Now, that'll preach, you guys. God tells you to do something. You're sensing in your heart you're supposed to do something. He'll have you put your feet in the water first. And one of my husband's favorite sayings is you either trust him or you don't. And I'll tell you what, that's one of those moments. He's telling you to go into that river and you don't know how you're going to get across it. And you don't know if the water's really going to back up. And I mean, they had no way of knowing that the river would back up and they'd walk across on dry land. Now they had the story of the Red Sea and how Moses parted the Red Sea for them. So that's what our past stories with the Lord does for us. That's why journaling is important. That's why remembering what God has done for us before, that helps us continue in the faith that we've been given, that if he's done it once, he'll do it again. But pretty powerful stuff. I want to go ahead and get to Luke, though. There's just some really good stuff in Luke that I just think fits us. No matter who you are, where you are, today is April the 11th, 2018, and I think this fits our life today. And it'll fit my life one way, but it'll fit Rebecca's another way, and Shayna's another way, and Brooke's another way, and Tom's yet another way. But it fits our life. And so I think I'll just read it. Luke 14, 7 through 35. When Jesus noticed that all who had come to the dinner were trying to sit in the seats of honor near the head of the table, he gave them this advice. When you're invited to a wedding feast, don't sit in the seat of honor. Don't sit in the seat of honor. Don't be the first one to get up and go through the food line. Don't be the first one. Don't sit in the seat of honor. Now, he's teaching us. You know, we say, well, I want to live my life for God, and I want to be his, and I want to do all he wants me to do. And how come he's not blessing me? Why is it not working? How come I continue to have troubles? And that's why we read. That's first of all, it's why we pray. Because I never want to get out of order. We pray first. We open ourselves up to him because God's a respecter of us. He's not going to force himself on us. When we open our hearts to him and we use our words, so it comes up out of our heart, it bubbles over into our mind, and then out our mouth, and we say, God, I need you. God, help me. Help me, Father. And then he speaks back, and he's telling us what to do. And sometimes we just don't get it. And then we read it, and it's like, don't sit at the head of the table. Ouch. Ouch. Quit making it all about me, me, me. Don't sit in the seats of honor near the head of the table. He gave them this advice. When you're invited to a wedding feast, don't sit in the seat of honor. What if someone who is more distinguished than you has also been invited? The host will come and say, give this person your seat. You know, I've seen and have heard of and have experienced more squabbles over the seats in a church than, I mean, that's my seat. Well, we've sat there for 30 years. Everybody in this church knows that's my pew. That's my, I mean, how can you do that and read these scriptures? How is that possible? And when I read it, again, guys, this isn't me preaching at you. This is God speaking to Elizabeth. And when you're reading it, it's God speaking to you. The host will come and say, give this person your seat. Then you'll be embarrassed and you'll have to take whatever seat is left at the foot of the table. Instead, take the lowest place at the foot of the table. Then when your host sees you, he will come and say, friend, I've got a better place for you. Then you'll be honored in front of all the other guests. For those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. I mean, just in conversation, I mean, if I'm so busy visiting with Shayna, and I'm so busy thinking about the next words I want to say to her that I'm not even hearing what she's saying, what am I doing to that relationship? I'm not building a relationship. If Shayna never believes I hear a word she says because I'm so busy talking, you know, and you know, in Bible study, if I'm so busy wanting to, you know, tell the leader of our group over there, then I may miss what God has spoken through that leader. There's a divine order in everything. In everything. There's a divine order, and it's God's order. Divine means that it's ordered by God. And when you attend a group and there's a leader there, they are the leader. And just because you've got leadership qualities, and again, I'm telling you, these are things he has taught me and he is teaching me, and every single time I read it, I get something new, and I get a new level of how to humble myself, and how to, and especially if you've been blessed and God has exalted you. And, David's on here with us, and David had worked his way up very high in the postal service, was a postmaster of a very large town, and he worked in some of the largest towns in our state, and when he decided to join our group and come in with us, he humbled himself. And you can hear it in the words he speaks. I'm so honored to be with you once again, and he'll honor my leadership as a leader of our group here in his words, but not just in his words. He does it in his deeds. And I thought of David when I read these this morning. He's as much of an extrovert as anybody, and yet if he's speaking and I don't honor what I'm reading here, and I start talking to David, because I'll get excited and I'll start talking over the top of him because I'm wanting to say what I'm wanting to say instead of hear what he says, David bows and he'll stop. Wow. I mean, he's a man of God. He understands divine order. And I respect that about David, and he's an example for me. He doesn't even know that, and he's probably embarrassed that I'm even using him as an example today. But when he does that and I see it spiritually, it ministers to my heart, and I say, I want to be more like that. I want to be more like that. These are powerful truths today. Instead, take the lowest place at the foot of the table, because then you'll be exalted. For those who exalt themselves, verse 11, will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Then he turned to his host. When you put on a luncheon or a banquet, he said, don't invite your friends, brothers, relatives, and rich neighbors, for they will invite you back. That will be your only reward. I am telling you, it took God a long, long time to get me to the point that what I did for other people, I didn't expect something back. Even a thank you. If you're doing it because you want to hear the thank you back, it's not a pleasing aroma to the Lord, as we talked about in Leviticus. All the sacrifices in the world that we make, if the only reason why we do it is because we want something back, and when we're doing things and it's like, oh, I'll help them do this, and I'm going to go help them do that, and I'll help them do this, and I'll help them do this. That way, when I need, they'll all come running because they owe me. Well, see if I ever help them again. See if I ever, though, man, that is not a pleasing aroma to the Lord, and it blocks our blessing. Once again, folks, these are things that when we stop and say, well, why is it not working in my life? Why are the principles of God, the living heaven on earth, why am I not experiencing that? Well, it may be that you've stopped communicating with somebody simply because they didn't tell you thank you. It could be something as simple as you filled their plate and brought it to them to the table, and they didn't say thank you, and your feelings are hurt. And so anyway, it speaks powerfully to me that we don't do what we do expecting something in return. And when you work hard and you've worked hard to get what you've got, and then God directs you to give, and you give, and it's a sacrifice to give. It's like, really, Lord, right now I do this. Right now I'm supposed to do this, and there's not even a thank you back. Oh, I'll tell you what, it'll keep you praying. But that's what we're supposed to do. If it's still in you that it rises up that, oh, there wasn't even a thank you for that, then I got to pray, okay, Lord, help me remember, Lord, I did that out of obedience to you, not to get. Because to begin with, I shouldn't be doing it anyway unless I've heard from God to do it. He directs us in the ways he wants us to go. And if I step out and I'm doing it now for the attention, and I'm doing it now for the glory, and I'm doing it to exalt myself, then by far more important than not getting a thank you here on earth, I'm not getting an acknowledgement from my Father. It's not a pleasing aroma to him. and it's like dung in his nostrils. I don't want to do things that become a dung in my Father's nostrils. I want everything I do to be a pleasing aroma, and I'm obviously not there yet, or these scriptures wouldn't keep speaking to me the way they speak to me. So you don't invite your rich neighbors, for they will invite you back, and that will be your only reward. Instead, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind. Then at the resurrection of the righteous, God will reward you for inviting those who could not repay you. A lot of what we do here on earth, we're putting up crowns in heaven for us. We're storing up crowns. We'll never get any recognition here on earth for a lot of the things that we do. And I'm talking what seems to be little teeny tiny things. Who eats first in the line? When's the last time you got up and allowed an elder that walked in the room to have your chair? Do you know how rare that is these days? Very seldom do you see the young folks get up out of their chair and allow an elderly person to sit down. And hey, here's the deal. They don't even have to be elderly. If they're older than you, you're supposed to offer your seat to them. It's not, well, they may have trouble standing that long. That's not the criteria. It's divine order of things. It is humbling yourself, and those who are humbled will be exalted. And then at the resurrection of the righteous, God will reward you for inviting those who could not repay you. We do what we do for him. It's all this direction. I love to go this direction from my heart up. It's this direction, not this way. I'm not doing it to be recognized by these. I'm doing it because he told me to, and obedience always leads to reward. Always. Obedience always leads to reward. And the number one first reward, something as simple as offering my seat to somebody that walks in, or giving my last $20 in my pocket to somebody, is the peace that surpasses understanding in my heart. Man, that's priceless. There's no money worth that in my mind. Hearing this, a man sitting at the table with Jesus exclaimed, "What a blessing it will be to attend a banquet in the kingdom of God." And Jesus replied with this story. A man prepared a great feast and sent out many invitations. When the banquet was ready, he sent his servant to tell the guests, "Come, the banquet is ready." But they all began making excuses. One said, "I've just bought a field and must inspect it. Please excuse me." Another said, "I've just bought the 5 pairs of oxen and I want to try them out. Please excuse me." And another said, "I just got married, so I can't come." How many of y'all as a little kid had a birthday party and nobody came? I did. I had one, Man, it'll devastate a little person's heart. But what a great opportunity for us to share the stories about Jesus and share the stories that Jesus shares to get the principles across to us of what he's trying to teach us. The servant returned and told his master what they'd said. His master was furious and said, "Go quickly into the streets and alleys of the town and invite the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame." After the servant had done this, he reported, "There is still room for more." So his master said, "Go out into the country lanes and behind the hedges and urge anyone you find to come, so the house will be full. For none of those I first invited will get even the smallest taste of my banquet." So we have an event and nobody comes. First of all, I have to ask myself, did God tell me to do that? Was I supposed to have that dinner party? Second of all, then, okay, Lord, you told me to have the dinner party. Then did I miss something else? Did I not invite the ones that I was supposed to invite? And this can be applied to anything you're doing. God told me to go apply for that job, and I didn't get that job. Well, did I hear right? Did he really tell me to apply for that job? Well, if he did, and I know that he did, then did I do the interview wrong? Did I put something wrong down on my paper? And see, it goes back to Psalms 139 verses 23, 24. Search my heart, O Lord, and see if there be any wicked way in me. But what we want to do is we want to blame it on the person that we interviewed with. We want to blame it on they lost my application, or we want to blame it on the people who were too busy to come to our banquet. Instead of internalizing it back to the Father and saying, Lord, did I miss you? Search my heart, O Lord, and see if there be anything in me that I missed you, and then lead me on the path of righteousness, to the point that, nobody came. Well, I'm still God's. I'm still his, and I'm still open to what he's saying, instead of, oh my Lord, I missed it. Nobody likes me. I'm doing the wrong thing. I'm doubting. You see what I'm saying? When you're his, and you're taking the little things to him, even to whether or not I have a banquet, who I invite to the banquet, what food I serve. He really wants us to be so in tune with him that he's guiding us every step of the way. And when you are, peace reigns. Things are not always the way they seem. Even though out here physically, nobody came to my banquet. Oh my gosh, I must be bad. Nobody likes me. Oh, no. Okay, Lord, I don't know what that was about, but I know that I heard. I double checked with you, and I know, and I have peace in my heart. I trust you. All is as it should be right now, this very moment. See, peace will bring us back every single time to that statement. Everything is as it should be right now. But we're not always going to hear correctly, to do correctly, or even obey correctly. That's why that little check. Something's not right. Tom bites my head off this morning. I shouldn't be praying about God changed Tom. It ought to be, okay, Lord, what's in me? Why did that affect me? He ought to be able to bite my head off and not have it steal my joy, not have it steal my peace. He's entitled. He can get up on the wrong side of the bed sometime. It doesn't have to be about me. And what I would venture to tell y'all, 99% of the time, what starts the arguments in our relationships, probably what was inside that person that started it, wasn't about you to begin with. But because we have to make it our business, because everything's about me. It's in my own little world of me. If Tom wakes up bad, it's got to be mad, then it's got to be about me. That's what we do. It's what we, but he's teaching us through these scriptures not to make it about me. Humble yourself and you'll be exalted. A large crowd was following Jesus. He turned around and said to them, if you want to be my disciple, you must, by comparison, hate everyone else. By comparison, hate everyone else. We make it cliches. God first in our marriage, then our husband, then our children. We make it so cliche. This isn't very cliche. In comparison to my father, I have to hate Tom. In comparison. Mm-hmm. And those of you that have the Spirit of God on the inside of you takes the truth in this, and we don't twist the words. It's not about the words. It's the spirit of divine order that he's teaching us here. In comparison, there are those that absolutely would die for their children, but they would denounce Christ in a heartbeat. How much easier for us is it that would die for our kids, but the neighbors start making fun of you because you're a Christian and you'll just chime right in with them. By comparison, hate everyone else. Your father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters. Yes, even your own life. Otherwise, you cannot be my disciple. It just doesn't get any plainer than that. Black and white. That's how we can stay in a marriage that's not working, is because we haven't made it about the spouse. And God hates divorce. So if that's the truth, then what's our next step? Our next step is to trust God and to fall so in love with God that nothing else around here matters. Paul was in prison and he wrote most of the New Testament. Paul was in prison in deplorable conditions and sang, worshiping and praising God to the point that then the earth shook and the chains fell off of the prison walls, and he didn't even leave. That's how content he was in the Lord. And we want to, life's too short. Just get a divorce. Life's too short. You don't have to stay in a relationship with them. Well, tell them off and walk away and don't think twice about that relationship. God will have you walk away from relationships, but it won't be very often. That is not his first way at all, unless it has to do with our belief in him. And if you do not carry your own cross, I heard from somebody in another state this morning about the reading that took the time to tell me that if you do not carry your own cross, and how it spoke to him. If you do not carry your own cross and follow me, you cannot be my disciple. If you do not carry your own cross. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm dealing with. It's up to me to dig in deep with the Lord. I'll carry my own cross. I'll carry my burden until God lifts it from me. Instead of, well, this marriage would be good if Tom would be good. Well, if Tom just believed in God a little bit better, this marriage would be better. Well, if Tom would just stop. That's what we do. No. I'm telling y'all, this is what God's done with me, Elizabeth. The marriage doesn't seem to be what I thought it was going to be, and it's okay, Lord, show me. Show me. We have an upset over foo-foo coffee, which if y'all have been around this very much, you know back several years ago, Elizabeth had an ordeal over foo-foo coffee. Tom just stayed silent. But Elizabeth got all wrapped up over some foo-foo coffee. And I wanted to make it all about him for about 3-4 hours. And after about 3 or 4 hours of me inside just venting, then it was, okay, Lord, obviously this isn't getting fixed. He won't even talk to me. And I even went in and opened the door and he's asleep. I'm all up, kind of upset, and he's asleep. Show me. And you know what he showed me? He showed me I was wrong. And I had to apologize. And why did I have to apologize? Is it because of Tom? No. It wasn't because of Tom. Did Tom do everything right in that situation? No. But at the point when I allowed God inside me and I cared more what God thought than what I thought, he showed me the wrong in me. He didn't take away the wrong in Tom. He showed me the wrong in me. And at that point, I'm not right with my Lord. And that's all that matters. All that matters. If I'd have gone in and insisted that he'd get up and talk to me and I wake him up and I keep him up all night, I'm just putting one bad thing on top of another on my record, not his, mine. Whew. Told you this is good stuff. And I told you it speaks to me. But don't begin until you count the cost. This is, how can people go to church, answer an altar call, go down, say the prayer, walk out, and go back to their addictions and go back to their lifestyles and go back to the filth of what they were doing anyway? Because they didn't count the cost. Seek me first. Seek me first. Seek the kingdom of God first, and all these things will be added up. He's a jealous God. See, we read these things. These are the things we read. He doesn't want anybody to be. We just got there reading. Your husband, your wife, your children, your brothers and sisters cannot be more important than me, God, in your life. Count the cost. And he's going to tell you what the cost is. For who would begin construction of a building without first calculating the cost to see if there is enough money to finish it? Oh, well, I don't think I want to go to that church because the people in town will speak bad about me. Well, then we're going to the church for the wrong reason. Mm-hmm. We go where God tells us to go. And we attend what church God tells us to attend. And we don't leave until God tells us to leave. Everybody wants to leave because they get mad. Well, if I left every single time I was tempted to get mad, no wonder we've got how many multiple dozens of denominations. Count the cost to see if there's enough money to finish it. Otherwise, you might complete only the foundation before running out of money, and then everyone would laugh at you. They would say, there's the person who started that building and couldn't afford to finish it. Or what king would go to war against another king without first sitting down with his counselors to discuss whether his army of 10,000 could defeat the 20,000 soldiers marching against him? And if he can't, he will send a delegation to discuss terms of peace while the enemy is still far away. So you cannot become my disciple without giving up everything you own. Wow. Everything. Everything. Salt is good for seasoning, but if it loses its flavor, how do you make it salty again? Flavorless salt is good neither for the soil nor for the manure pile. It is thrown away. Anyone with ears to hear should listen and understand. Wow. Proverbs 12:27-28. Lazy people don't even cook the game they catch, but the diligent make use of everything they find. The way of the godly leads to life. That path does not lead to death. Do we find value in everything that happens in our life? Or do we just kill the game and toss it aside and don't even use it? Everything works for good for thee called who love the Lord. Everything. Everything. Thank y'all. You guys have a wonderful Wednesday. It is Wednesday. Have a wonderful Wednesday.